Hi everybody. In the last several lessons we have been learning how to solve quadratic equations, and we've seen that if a quadratic equation can be factored, then that's a fairly easy straightforward way to solve it. And then we also saw that we could extract square roots to solve certain types of quadratic equations, and then by making use of those two applications we were able to come up with another technique called completing the square. And this technique will always work to solve any quadratic equation, but it's somewhat cumbersome and we end up needing to do it a lot. And so what we're going to do to make the process faster and simpler is to complete the square once and for all on a generic quadratic equation, just the general form of a quadratic equation, to come up with a formula that we could just plug the values of a, b, and c into. And that formula is going to be called the quadratic formula. Alright, so you remember that to complete the square, the leading coefficient has to be 1. And so what I need to do is I need to divide both sides of this equation by that leading coefficient, in this case a, and then I'm going to get the x terms all by themselves. So when I do that, that gives me an x squared all by himself right here, and then I've got plus the b over ax, and then the c over a I'm going to go ahead and take on the other side, and of course 0 divided by a is just 0. So I will get a negative c over a over on this side of the equation. Alright? And I left a little space here to add in what I need to complete the square. And remember, to complete the square, I always take half of this middle term and square it. Okay, so I'm going to take half of the b over a and square it. And notice I didn't have to actually think in my head and simplify that. I can just write half of the b over a and square it. And of course, if I add that to this side, I'll have to add it to the other side as well. So now that I see it written out, I'll write b over 2a, quantity squared, to this side. Now, in this process, this on this side is always a perfect square, and that's going to factor as x because x is what I square to get x squared, and then this second term has to be the b over 2a, because if I square that, that'll give me this term, and then the middle term will be from taking, this times this and doubling it, and when I double it, the 2's will cancel and I'll get b over ax. So it really does work out that if you multiply all this out, you'll get this here. Now over on the right hand side, let's go ahead and simplify this. That's going to be b squared over 4a squared, and then I've got the minus c over a. Alright, so I just put it in order, and then I notice that there's I'm going to have to get a common denominator here. So let's multiply here by 4a over 4a, and then I've got this x plus b over 2a squared is equal to b squared minus 4ac all over the 4a squared. Alright, so if I've got something squared equal to this, I can go ahead and extract the square roots, and that will give me x plus b over 2a is plus or minus the square root of everything on the right hand side here. So I got the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared, and I can go ahead and take the square root of the 4a squared, right? And that'll be plus or minus the square root of the numerator, and the square root of 4a squared will just be 2a. Alright, so let's go ahead and bring the b over 2a on the other side. That'll give me a negative b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And from there, I will combine those over the common denominator, and that's going to be my quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Alright? So there we have it, and this is what we call the quadratic formula, and this is a formula you definitely want to memorize. If you have a quadratic equation you're trying to solve, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then automatically, rather than completing the square, dividing by a, taking half the middle term and squaring it and simplifying the right hand side. We just did all of this once and for all, and it'll always work out to be negative, whatever that b value is, you put right here, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. And that's the quadratic formula.